Welcome back to Battalion Wars. Today we're closing down the Dune Sea campaign with what is actually a not-so-great mission. I don't really like this mission at the end of the day, even though it was the first one that I attempted a solo unit run on, even though you can't really do a solo unit run on it at the end of the day. Anyhow, we're getting introduced to two new units, and although the mission is not very difficult, it does have some rather eyebrow-raising quirks to it. Nothing big, but it is fairly interesting to see what this level can do.
The enemy's primary neurosite extraction facility is just north of our position, Commander. Before we attack, we're gonna have to neutralize their anti-air defenses. You will then receive clearance to deploy a frontier bomber and precision strike those extraction towers.
Wow, I just now noticed the bones in the sand. That is awesome. Did anyone else notice that? Anyway, here's our new unit of the day, the Mortar Veteran. This is undoubtedly the most powerful of all of the infantry we've seen so far. It shoots grenades out of a grenade launcher. The primary purpose of this is to get around cover that the enemies may be hiding in. For instance, this group of infantry right here is sitting behind sandbags, but that isn't going to do them much good when I start shooting grenades at them. As we see, whenever a unit gets hit with a grenade, it goes flying. If a unit gets launched into the air, odds are he's not coming back down alive. Well, for more than a few seconds anyways. The objective for this mission is to destroy 5 anti-air emplacements so your bombers have a clear run at the extraction towers, but I have to wonder, since there are no anti-air vehicles at any of these emplacements, what is the point of actually going to the trouble of destroying them first? I mean, these are ACAC units. Gunships could destroy them. Bombers could destroy them. They're not all that strong defensively. I mean, look at what my Mortar Veteran is doing to them. So anyway, since the Mortar Veteran is so dang good, let's play the entire stage with just this one Mortar Veteran, at least until we get the bombers. That's a good idea, right? Actually, you can still get an S rank playing this way, which is very interesting. Says a lot about the level design. Now then, we have gunships for some reason, but I'm going to at least use them to take the tedium out of this a little, because the go-to strategy for dealing with the heavy tanks in this level is to fire at them while circle strafing, just like with the missile veterans. In fact, the only thing the missile veterans can do that the Mortar Veteran cannot is shoot down air units. And as you might have noticed there was a little target thingy on top of the hill, on top of the cliff there. There are some infantry units on top of the mountains. I don't really know why. I mean, like, couldn't you have put the anti-air units there? That would be a pretty good strategy. Come on, Exylvania, you're better than this. Oh wait, Commandant Ubel is commanding this mission. Of course they're going to suck. Wait a minute, 3 down? I only took out 2. Did my gunships take down an anti-air emplacement on their own? Wow, Ubel, you are bad at this. Losing an anti-air emplacement to gunships, I don't... Okay, let's try and keep our sanity as we move on here. The gunships are doing their job. There are some purple crystals to our left, which are supposed to be the neurosite. I just lost a gunship, and here's the extraction tower. Notice that when I shoot at it with a Mortar Veteran, the grenade does not even explode. I get that only bombers are supposed to be able to damage that thing, but it doesn't make too much sense to me that your grenade doesn't even explode. I'm sorry, where was I? Oh yes, I was mortaring these 2 miniguns. A key thing to keep in mind is that unlike in Advanced Wars, it does not matter how much damage a unit takes. A unit is still a threat until its life bar reaches 0. It's one of the big differences between this and Advanced Wars. Other than the fact that one's a strategy game and the other is a real-time game. Real-time action game. So, there are a couple of heavy tanks blocking the exit to this bridge. I have to wonder why they aren't on the bridge itself. I mean, that would probably be a more challenging situation. Even though your gunships could probably just... Why am I still talking? So, the Mortar Veteran is yet another unit that gets nerfed in Battalion Wars 2. Although I haven't really experimented with it that much in Battalion Wars 2, because they don't let you use it all that often. And I should have known that the heavy tank would take a couple more hits to get rid of there. I ate that tank shot to the face. I wouldn't have been prepared to reset the level if that had happened, really. Also, you probably noticed by this point, but there are searchlights at each of the anti-air emplacements. I have no idea what purpose searchlights could possibly serve in this game. I mean, it makes seeing easier, but sight is never a problem in Battalion Wars. This game does not have fog of war. And why are these anti-air emplacements even a problem? I mean, it doesn't seem like they could cover very much ground. I mean, you could very easily be sneaky with a bomber, but then again, realistically, you couldn't expect a bomber to always hit its target. That's the huge problem with bombers in real life that isn't present in most games, because we don't want to worry about realism in our games. Although, to be perfectly honest, having some kind of cooldown on the mortar shots would be appreciated. I mean, you can charge the mortar shots, but this doesn't do anything except change the arc. Anyways, now that all 5 anti-air emplacements are destroyed, let's see what was going on back here. I have little faith in the AI because it seems that it was losing to a bunch of rockets, even though I left them here with gunships. Anyway, now let's talk about the extraction towers. For some reason, your rifle grunts can damage them, but only if the anti-air emplacements are destroyed. Obviously a case of event flags preventing you from doing any sort of damage to the extraction tower before you've actually gotten the bombers, but then for some reason the rifle grunts can actually hurt the things. Let's talk about bombers, since I need to get my mind off the stupidity of this level. Bombers are planes, which means they are always constantly moving forwards. You might worry about crashing into things, but then you'll realize that the game actually adjusts your height automatically, assuming you aren't holding down the R button, which lets you adjust height manually. Now, once you take down one of the towers by dropping bombs onto it, a bunch of fighters appear. And you probably know what those are. Fighters are jet planes that aim to shoot down your bombers. But luckily for us, Tundran fighters have arrived under the command of that Tundran dude who started this war in the first place and is now helping us for some reason. Well, he did get betrayed. Wait, he was in exile? When did the game mention that? Were we just supposed to assume he was in exile for being a total traitor? I don't know. These fighters are going to try and shoot me down, but they'll promptly get shot down themselves. The Tundran fighters are very adept at doing their jobs, as you can see, unlike a certain other country which we'll be seeing in a couple of missions. Now, see, if you would put an anti-air unit on top of the mountain, then I probably would get shot by it. Game? Exilmania? Anybody? One last point worth noting is that if you are having trouble seeing what you are actually dropping bombs onto, with smaller targets this is a bit of an issue. You can simply change the camera position and you'll be just fine. That's one good thing the camera is useful for.
But we couldn't have done it without Gorgi. Better contact Marshal Nova and let him know his father has returned.
Gorgi, do you copy? Yes, Nova. I have returned, and victory is my traveling companion. Father, let go of me! Father! Who is this? What have you done with the Tsar?
I let him go. Kaiser Vlad sends his regards.
Son, you must understand. I acted in the best interests of the Tundran Empire. I know, Father.
I'd say Sargogi got terminated. I'm sorry. Let's move on. The next mission is X-Day. It is very appropriately named because it's an annoying mission to get an S rank on. You are most definitely at the mercy of luck for about a good portion of it, and it's not because you are unskilled, it's because the computer is...
Colonel, what news?
We sent an expeditionary force to meet with Empress Leiko of the Solar Empire. It seems that they were intercepted by the Exovanians.
And so the curtain rises on yet another theater of war. What now?
We engage the enemy. If we are to have peace, we must fight for it.
It pleases me when you are assertive, Colonel Austin.
Very bad at defending themselves. I'm a practitioner master of the cliffhanger, if you couldn't tell. Also, Major Nellie's final appearance in this game was rather cute, but that's all you'll be seeing of her until the sequel. What a joyous day.
Greetings, Commander, and welcome to the Coral Atolls. This is Beachy Point Island. We are here to put a stop to Kaiser Vlad's invasion of the Solar Empire. The survivors of the Frontier's Expeditionary Force are also waiting to be rescued. Unfortunately, Vlad has this island extremely well fortified. Your battalion will be assaulting entrenched positions, so use your mortar vents to flush the enemy out of cover. Ready, Commander? Then I'll see you on the beach.
This mission begins with us in control of a mortar veteran in the thick of battle already. Try not to get squished by the T-copter as it drops the rest of your army. Now, for this level, what I like to do is slip through that teensy little gap in the fence and go straight for the artillery, because those are the biggest threat here. If left unchecked, they will pretty much shell the rest of your men. They're guarded by a bunch of rocket units, so I like to use the mortar veteran to get up close to them without getting hit too many times. Now, I just commanded our entire battalion to come here, towards me, although that probably wasn't a good idea since they'll be the ones dealing with the rockets, and they are not very good at defending themselves, I've seen. I will almost definitely lose a unit trying to do this strategy. Although, if you leave the artillery alone for too long, then they'll just get shelled out anyway, so that's annoying. If you want to do a run of this level without losing a single unit, you probably should decide against it. Now, those two MG towers I just destroyed are rather interesting, because it's actually possible to steal them from the enemy. They do not start occupied. If you're quick enough, you can get into them yourselves. But, I don't see why you would do that since they aren't too useful. I mean, they're just machine guns. What's the big deal? Heavily armored machine guns, anyways. At least if you did get into one of them, oh my goodness, what is going on here? Oh my goodness, my unit is stuck inside the tank. It's being... Oh, this cracks me up every time. I have no idea how I got that to happen. That was too cool. Anyways, if you manage to occupy that MG tower before the enemy takes it, you will at least have better armor against the acid gas units here. But then again, you could just shell them out with a tank, like I just did. Anyhow, seizing that capture point will net us some reinforcements, which we'll very much need. This level does not like it if you try and go through it with a single unit, like we did in the previous level. I suppose the designers had gotten wind of the fact that the best way to ensure your army's survival is to not have them get anywhere near combat at all. Speaking of which, this artillery is annoying, so let's destroy it. But I don't want to go too far ahead from here, though, because there's a fortress up ahead, and if you get too close to that fortress, it will trigger an event which spawns a bunch of gunships. And considering we don't have the anti-air units yet, that would be a very bad thing to do. So this T-copter is going to take its sweet time dropping our reinforcements. There we go. When you see my number of light tanks go up to 2, that means they're here, and we're good. So, there's a POW camp up this hill. It's guarded by a light tank, some rifle grunts, it's got an MG tower, and it's got a nasty little surprise waiting for us as well. Which is not that nasty at all, because you can very easily deal with that little surprise. I'll stop foreshadowing this and take note of the fact that the POW camp has an actual fence around it, which your tank has to run over in order to get inside. So it should come as no surprise as, hey, the enemy has mortar veterans, for once. Well, they're called grenades, for some reason, but why would you rename them to grenade? That's basically what the mortar veteran does, is shoot grenades. You don't need to rename them. There's no real point, but then again, there's no real point in renaming anything other than the acid gas veteran. That's why all of the unit names are back to normal in the sequel. For Exylvania, anyways. So we'll be taking the side path to the fortress up ahead. The reason why you don't want to do the whole select one unit and use only that unit strategy is that the fortress up ahead spawns an infinite number of rifle grunts. I don't know why. I mean, facilities that respawn units don't become a thing until the sequel, so it's very odd that they would try that in this game. That guy went flying real high, though. I always like when that happens. Some rockets are guarding it. These are supposed to be a threat. Well, there's a bunch of MG towers at the fortress too. Interestingly enough, there's nothing inside the fortress at all. No enemies, at least. Well, when we get up there, there's going to be no enemies. But what is inside the fortress is a pair of fighter pilots that have been taken prisoner. They're being held in barbed wires, about a foot away from their planes. I have a hard time processing that through my mind. First of all, how do you capture fighter pilots and their planes, and why would you then leave the planes intact and place them a foot away from the camp where the prisoners are being held, and why do you not make the prison camp guarded better? See, this is all Exylvania can do when it comes to creating POW camps. It's horrible. No wonder you guys are losing so bad all the time. The only good thing you did was that surprise attack at the end of the Tundran campaign. Okay, fighters, I need to get that thought out of my head. Fighters are, of course, the anti-air units of the air. And these are the gunships that I said would spawn. They're incredibly annoying. They attack rather actively, and, as I mentioned, missile veterans don't defend well against them, even though they're built specifically for taking them out. Speaking of which, even though the game tells you that the fighter's missiles are only good against other air units, whether or not a missile is heat-seeking or not doesn't change the fact that it's still a missile. But as we see right here, Oh, actually, I have to take out that gunship first. It's fairly simple to take out a gunship with a fighter, but you can still get hit with the gunship's missiles. Your fighter is flying low enough for that to happen. As we see here, I'm going to take out this rocket unit. Fighter missiles. Fighters do good against any unit. Any and all of them. You know what else does well against any and all units? Why, the plane that just spawned. A Strata Destroyer has appeared, and it's more or less the boss of this level. Unfortunately, it's not a very good air unit. I mean, it can take out other air units, and it can take out ground units pretty easily. It drops bombs, it has missiles. What could possibly be bad about it? Well, it's slow. It's a slow unit. And as you'll see, my other fighter had already taken it down to about 1% of its health when I shot it. So that was rather anticlimactic. Maybe we can make better use of a Strata Destroyer when we get one ourselves. Don't count on it. That is the end of X Day, and that will close down this video. Now we can only hope that my score was decent. Of course, I have vowed to get an S rank on every single mission in this LP, so... Of course it's going to be an S rank. But seriously, I rarely get an S rank on this mission because it's so dang difficult to get through most of it without losing units. A lot of units, rather. In fact, if I had gone just a little faster, this would have been perfect. Maybe this isn't so hard after all.